All right, welcome to the fan mail episode pre-Roland Garros French Open 2023. I'm going to be answering your questions from YouTube. In the future, we might include Twitter, Instagram, other platforms. But right now, just the OGs on YouTube. We're going to be getting into what you're asking, what you're wondering about, what we're all thinking about before the draw comes out tomorrow in this year's second major. So let's get into it. That's all that we're doing on this show, answering your guys' questions. If you didn't submit a question this time, look out for the next time when I drop the notice and get your thoughts in. Let's get after it. Here's the slice. Let's go. All right. Welcome to the show. If you have never been here before, welcome to the slice. Subscribe. That is your best way to improve your tennis game. It's a scientifically proven fact. Research just came out that if you subscribe, you become a better tennis player. It's a weird correlation. They're not sure what causes it. So you might as well not take the risk in not subscribing, if you know what I mean. But thanks for being here. And shout out to CoolBet. Stay cool, bet responsibly and respectfully on the tennis. Let's just check, because I said I would do it last time. I said let's check the odds for winning the entire Roland Garros. We looked at the RG power rankings, which you guys had some thoughts on. I'll say that. That's all I'll say. You had some thoughts on my list, which was Djokovic 1, Alcaraz 2, and Rune 3. And you guys thought, that was a little bit crazy. I think a lot of you got upset the fact that I had Tsitsipas ahead of Medvedev, even though Medvedev just beat Tsitsipas on the clay, which is still, in my mind, super crazy that happened, and that Medvedev beat Rune to win Rome in general. That is all crazy. But I stand by my list. That's my list, and you can't take it away from me, can you? But I did say that we would find... Oh my gosh, the live odds, but the app is not working right now for me. And we don't have time to get into it right now, but check out the odds on CoolBet for the outright winner of the tournament. Power rankings are big. Draw comes out tomorrow, but right now it's fan mail. So let's just dive right in to your questions. Why don't we? So pulling the first one up here from Austin. Why have Alcaraz and Rune managed to break through in more finals than Sinner so far, he says. A couple thoughts on that. And my first is that if I had to point to one thing, it's that I think Rune and Alcaraz are a little more physically mature than Sinner. Like, doesn't it just look like that? Sinner's taller, lankier. Rune and Sinner are both listed as 6'2" on ATPtour.com, but Sinner seems taller to me, and he's definitely less filled out. So he's also seemed to have more injury issues. So, I mean, they've all gotten to finals. Sinner's gotten to the finals of Masters 1000. Alcaraz has won, obviously, many now. Rune's won one, made the final of 2. So it's kind of a scale. Alcaraz most successful, Rune, and then probably Sinner in the finals of big tournaments, obviously. But yeah, the only thing I can really point to, I think Rune and Alcaraz are a little bit more explosive athletes than Sinner. Sinner seems to have a little bit more of those kind of longer stamina type muscles and physicality. So that's really the only thing I can point to. Alcaraz and Rune have a bit more pop, I think, in their game. And I think they're more comfortable in their bodies than Sinner has, who still looks a little bit more lanky. That's the only thing I can think of physicality wise. I think also maybe Rune and Alcaraz have a bit more identity in their game. Sinner's, you've seen him struggle sometimes to know how to play. Is he a big server, big hitter, or is he a guy that rallies? He hits flat, we know that, and he hits big, but sometimes he's struggled a little bit with identity, I would say, of his play style, and that hasn't helped him. So that's my only thoughts. All three are super successful. Many are considering them like the next big three of tennis, myself included, along with some other guys. But yeah, that's that. So thanks for the question. Austin. Next question from Wadies. Mailbag. Why do you think one-handed backhands dropped in popularity? With the added spin of today's game, do you think they'll make a comeback? Also, why do you think they're so massively more popular at the rec level? 3 questions in one. My first thought is the reason they're not. Why is the one-handed dropped in popularity? So, yeah. So with the added spin. So with the added spin, let's combine those 2 questions. So they've dropped in popularity, obviously, because the game has got more physical. Racket technology has allowed players to hit bigger. Balls are faster, and it's just harder to handle that with a one-handed backhand. The game's also been much more baseline dominant in recent 10, 15 years. That's also harder to play from the back of the court with a one-handed backhand. The more spin in the game is definitely true. That also comes from racket technology, mainly string technology, actually. But I think, with added, you were kind of saying added spin could be a benefit to having a one-hander. While it is maybe easier to add spin with a one-hander, it's, I would say, riskier to add spin as with a one-hander because you only have one hand on the racket. You have less racket control. That's just a fact. Yes, you can swing faster with a one-handed backhand. That adds more spin and can have a heavier shot, but it's more risky. So I think in the long game, unless your player, you have to be an exceptional mover nowadays, I think, to have a one-handed backhand. Show me any one-handed backhand on tour. I'll show you an exceptional mover. Lorenzo Musetti, amazing mover, athlete, strong. All these guys are strong as well. Tsitsipas, amazing mover, strong. Federer, amazing mover, strong. Dimitrov, same. Yeah, you got to be strong. You got to be an exceptional mover, and it's just riskier. So the main reason I think it's not more popular on tour is because it's harder to get through the junior ranks nowadays when you aren't grown up yet, you aren't strong, and you're out there trying to, hit one-handed backhands at your shoulder, and all the other kids are just using their left hand or both hands in the racket to push through it. It's just so much easier for them. So it seems like a huge uphill battle as a younger player. But then at the rec level, I do think a one-handed backhand is way more fun. So it's really fun to let that go, pretend you're Stan Wawrinka or Federer or whoever he might be, and just hit the one-hander. And if you're at the rec level, who cares if you suck, because you're going to suck anyway. So I personally use a one-handed backhand, and as a junior player, I used a two-hander. And then when I realized quickly that I wasn't going anywhere with my game, I switched to a one-hander so that I could have more fun out there and practice my one-handed backhand down the lines that really, keep you coming back every day to the court. So that's the long and short of my answer. Wadies, thank you for the question. Another one here from Ashley, fan mail question. What do you think of Nole's elbow injury? I know he's wearing a compression sleeve from time to time. Do you think it's serious or a minor injury? Full disclosure, I don't watch him enough to notice the difference because to me, he's always a beast on the court, whether he's injured or not. Thank you. Ashley, great question. He is a beast, whether he's injured or not. Some would say he's more of a beast when he's injured. So maybe this is all a psychological ploy to get his opponents off their game. It doesn't seem to be working. And I don't think it's a ploy because he clearly hasn't really been at his best all clay swing. So I think it probably is a bit more serious than he's talked about because he hasn't talked about it really that much. And yeah, nagging injuries like that in the elbow are not good. It's not a good thing. And if you can see here, it's his right elbow. And I think he's had issues in that elbow before. So yeah, I don't know what it is. I can't speculate. I'm not a doctor, but it's not a good thing. And I think it could be serious. And yeah, we'll have to see if that becomes more of an issue in Rome in Paris, because in Rome, he just lost to a better player on the day, Holger Rune. But yeah, we'll see. That's something to be cautious about because at this stage of his career, can get dicey for sure. Long question here. Thanks, Ashley. Haider Raya. Mailbag. Do you think Nadal finishing the match against Fritz at Wimbledon and then McDonald at the Australian Open caused his body to be in the state where it is now? We have seen him pull out in matches in the past, and every time that has happened, he has come back stronger, but not this time. Do you think that he would have recovered faster if he did not finish those matches? Do you also think that that potentially did it for Federer too when he did not retire against Sangren at the Australian Open 2020? I mean, how am I supposed to know, really? But those are good. Those are matches that you can point to, and you can say these guys played through serious pain. The Fritz match at Wimbledon for Rafa was crazy because his family was saying, "Dude, just quit." Like his dad's like, "Just." He's like, "Throw in the towel, man. What are you doing?" Because the thing is, we've seen Nadal throw in like with honor the towel so many times throughout his career, just because he's been too much pain to finish matches. So, there's just Rafa's got that dog in him. Like he's a competitor. So, at some point you say, screw it, I'm just going to play through this and see what happens. I've already won 22 slams. So maybe that caused more long-term injury than McDonald this year at the Australian Open and as well. Like you said, great points. Obviously, there's no really way to tell, but you got to say it's not good to play through that. It can't be good for your body. Same with Federer. Yeah, when that was back in 2020, Sangren match. And then even during the Djokovic match, Federer was clearly not right at that tournament. Kept playing through it. Never really showed anything on court either. But shortly after that, yeah, Federer kind of started having injuries that he really never recovered from. Like the knee. The knee was a separate issue theoretically there. So we don't know. You'll never really know. But I don't think playing through injuries is a good thing in general in tennis. That's what all kind of the professionals seem to agree on. So it can't really have been good. And that's my thought, I guess. Juan Chong. Now that there is a big chance Nadal and Djokovic won't meet again, do you think the rivalry will go down as the greatest in men's tennis? Fair question. I think it has to in the sense that they've played the most out of anyone, I believe, in the history of tennis as a rivalry. And they've had a lot of huge slugfests and great matches. So, but it's still an opinion thing, I think. I think there's a ton of people who are going to think that the Federer, Nadal, the Fidal matchup and rivalry is the most iconic in tennis history, right up there with Borg McEnroe. And I think, personally, I think the Federer Nadal style matchup, we always talk about matchups make tennis, and their style matchup, their friendship off the court, I think that makes it a bit more great, has a bit more greatness. But I mean, what can you really say? Like there's the aspect of Djokovic and Nadal's rivalry that's even more matches, more physicality total in it, probably maybe a closer matchup. For the first majority of the Federer-Nadal matchup, Nadal really had Federer's number, obviously righting the ship a bit in 2017, 2018. But yeah, that's a tough one. So I think there's a good chance, but yeah, that's right. The Djokovic and Nadal may have played their last match, and that would have been at the 2022 French Open, of course. And, Nadal got that one, and that was pretty crazy. And then the one before that, their match before that was also at Roland Garros the year before where Djokovic got it. But, I mean, you just look, their last 4 matches were on clay. Nadal won 3 of them. Djokovic won 1. Yeah, pretty amazing rivalry, and that's kind of all you got to say about that one. Coobs and the Keys says, who is going to be this year's runner-up at Roland Garros? Now we know that Dominic Thiem will be in the main draw. How far do you think he can get in the tournament? With Dominic Thiem, it depends on the draw. Obviously, it depends on the draw. I watched him closely last year in Europe, coming back in Gstaad, in Geneva, and he's struggled. He's just struggled to have the confidence in his game that he used to. It was crazy to think that he used to be so unbelievably hard to beat on these surfaces, and he could blast anyone off the court, including Djokovic, Nadal, anyone on clay, and then it turned out to hard court. And it's just with the mix of injury and the lack of confidence because of that. Because of that, he hasn't been able to get on a roll again. So yeah, totally draw dependent for Dominic Thiem. Who is going to be this year's runner-up at Roland Garros? Dang. I mean, part of me thinks just Tsitsipas because that's just kind of the script these days. Everyone's dogging on Tsitsipas. I don't think he can do anything at the French Open. But he has been to the final before, and he lost. He was the runner-up. He's been the runner-up in Australia. Unfortunately, he's maybe becoming a guy that's a runner-up guy. I don't know. Part of me thinks Alcaraz is winning this tournament. You know, it makes sense. I think he's the number one player in the world, other than Medvedev, in the best form coming in. But who's going to be the runner-up? I don't know. Is it going to be Djokovic? It's hard to imagine Djokovic losing in a final anymore, basically. So I don't think it'll be him. He could win it, obviously. But then again, it's hard to imagine Alcaraz losing in a final too. So yeah, maybe Tsitsipas as my runner-up pick. But what do you know? What do you know? All right. Sajib Mukherjee. I am butchering that name, I promise, and I'm sorry. 2 questions. Now that Rafa is not in RG this year, will you call RG23 an asterisk slam? Nope. Given his participation throughout his tennis career, since 2005, nope, definitely not. 2, because it's an open RG it's the most open RG in a long time with the absence of the 14-time champion. Do you think the draw will have an impact on the so-called favorite in Roland Garros this year? The draw, yeah, kind of, but there's no real. I mean, the favorite I would say is Djokovic. I don't know if he's the odds favorite. I don't think he actually is. I think most books got Alcaraz as the odds favorite, but I think the real contenders are Djokovic, Alcaraz, and then you got like Rune and Tsitsipas. People say I shouldn't say Tsitsipas, but I'm keeping respect on his name. Those are the 4 guys who I think really got a shot. So draw dependent, of course, it always is, but at the end of the day, to beat Djokovic or Alcaraz, you're going to have to do something really special. Less so with Rune and Tsitsipas. They can beat themselves. I mean, obviously, Alcaraz can beat himself too, but Djokovic really isn't going to beat himself. So as the main 2 favorites, Djokovic and Alcaraz, in my opinion, it's draw dependent a bit, but it's mostly dependent on them. So no, I don't think it's too much more wide open. You know, even in the last few years with Rafa being there, it's very draw dependent as well. We saw Rafa and Djokovic on the same quarter. You know, they played in the quarterfinals in last year's Roland Garros and in the semifinals the year before. So that was very big draw dependent. Yeah. So that's that. Already. And last question for us today is from Sagar. Rune, Alcaraz, and Stefano Tsitsipas playing a high-level tennis. Do you think Novak Djokovic can match their level at the French Open? I think so. We got to remember, it's 5 sets. It's major Grand Slam tennis. It's different. It's just different. You can win 2 sets against Novak Djokovic in a major, be up 2 sets to love, and not feel good. Imagine that. I wouldn't feel good if I was up 2 sets to love against Novak Djokovic, because you know how many times he's come back from that position to rip the heart out of a young man just trying to get a win against one of the all-time greats? Too many times. You saw it against Sinner. You saw it against Tsitsipas. You saw it against who else? Musetti, obviously. So no, yes, I do think that Djokovic can match their level. Of course they can. It's more like, can they match his level at the French Open? Because I do think there's a big difference between playing in Rome, playing in Madrid, playing in Barcelona, and playing in Paris. I just do. Not to take away from those tournaments, but we know that major tennis is different, and Djokovic is a different cat when it comes to the majors. He's big time. So yeah, that's that. That's what I think. That's a bit of fan mail. There's some more questions out there that I couldn't get to this time, but I appreciate you for sending it in. And for those of you who said I'm copying other tennis YouTubers, mainly Gil Gross, I'm not. I have seen him do these, and I'm like, that's a good idea. I should do more of this. I have done this in the past, just haven't focused on it. And there's a lot of people in tennis media, John Wertheim, hockey guys that I follow. Pretty much every podcast out there does some form of this. So as an effort to engage the fans that I love and you guys support us so much, I wanted to do it. So thanks for sending your questions. Thanks for engaging with the channel. And thanks for leaving us a thumbs up and subscribing down below and checking out CoolBet. If you're going to bet on the French Open this year, stay cool, bet responsibly. Thanks for being here. Over and out from